I didn't realize how this was going to feel hearing someone else read it.
This makes me emotional. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
This is a perpetrator's letter. This is an abuser's letter that he wrote to intimidate the person that she actually wanted to be with. This is not just the leader of a cult. This is someone who hurt her.
He could have stopped me from marrying the person I love.
Guys, welcome to Friends with Davey. I am here in beautiful Los Angeles, California with two incredibly special guests. Y'all are about to go crazy for this because I am in studio right now with Lindsey Williams and Shelise Sola from Cults to Consciousness in person, live. We're actually meeting in real life, IRL,
Welcome
guys.
to my studio.
This is incredible.
It's gorgeous.
I love it.
I love your studio.
The studio is
oh my God.
incredible.
I'm
y'all.
so happy to have you here, both of you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
And Davey was just like, yeah, can I record with my friend Lindsay? I'm like, I want to talk to Lindsay. And I didn't even know it was Lindsay. And then we're driving by and I see her on the sidewalk. I'm like, wait, that Lindsay?
Oh, it's that Lindsay?
We know Lindsay.
Oh my God.
And we're like, this is great. We were going to reach out to her. Now she's on our doorstep. It couldn't be more perfect.
Please
Here
let
we
me
are.
Guys, I'm a little bit nervous about this episode because all of my subscribers love y'all more than me.
That's not
Every
true.
time I do an episode, anything cult related, where's Lindsay? Where's Shelise? Where's Bryce? What's wrong with y'all? But now I've got them live
We're
on
here.
an episode. This is incredible. How have you
just
been
glad you're
doing,
here.
Shelise?
I mean, I just had a baby.
You did.
So there's that. I'm a little sleep deprived. It's getting better. She's adorable and she's perfect, but it's definitely hard keeping the channel going at full force because, you know, you have a baby, so you want to make more money. But it's like our team is cut in half because one of us has to be working with baby, another has to be working. So it's like editing while she's finally asleep. My work hours are now like 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. So
Oh my God.
it's a lot.
Wait, does that include the baby stuff? The 8 a.m.
Oh,
to
like
1 a.m.?
yeah, between those hours, I gotta go feed her at some point. And then
Oh
let
yeah,
her go
she
back
was
to
actually
sleep.
feeding the baby in studio. I didn't know what to
was.
do, y'all. I was so
I just
nervous.
turned around. I was like, I'm just gonna pop
should I
the boob
leave?
out. I gotta feed the baby, and I gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, I almost forgot. Oscar is here as well. Is
yeah.
Oscar on?
Yes.
Look at him.
Sweet
Oscar
Oscar
was
Mayer.
not a fan of me. Very suspicious.
Oh, paying
just-
attention now. Oscar's like, excuse
He's
me.
like, I'm
Like,
sorry,
oh,
what's
I'm
going
being
on?
mentioned right now.
Hey, boo.
But
He's just very
congratulations on the
protective.
baby.
Thank you.
She's adorable as well.
Thank you.
So I'm
nugget.
so happy for you
We
and
love
Jonathan.
her.
And Lindsay,
Yeah.
you don't have a
Hi.
baby, but Oscar
No.
loves you.
He
I
wants
have
to
half
Just
a
like my
baby.
subscribers, look at this. Oscar's straddling.
Mr. Longbottom can
Wow.
sit on both laps at the same time.
Wow, choosing
Incredible.
us both. Thank you so much. Just like
This
your
is great.
followers.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. No, he loves
Bark at you.
y'all.
But here for
Not me
us.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar, I see you staring at me right
He's
now.
a good boy.
This is. I can't
You
win,
mentioned him, and he was like, I'm going to show you up, bro. I'm going to show you up.
I got both the
yeah.
ladies.
y'all. What have you been up to, Lindsay?
Work.
Just
Been
working?
Working and lifing. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
doing
been
the
great.
makeup artist stuff, traveling
Doing
all
that,
over the place. You
yeah.
were in Paris
I
recently,
was. I
right?
was in Paris helping a
fun.
friend for a fashion show.
Yep.
Yep.
Staying in a castle.
Well, did the show in a castle.
Did the
Yeah.
show
I
in a
didn't
castle.
exactly stay there.
It was
a little too
incredible.
cold.
I saw the pictures. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
So you're
stunning.
just doing all kinds of big stuff.
I'm just loving
Amazing.
work. Yeah.
And y'all
It's my
y'all
real
both
life.
live here in Los Angeles,
Yeah, I didn't even
right?
know that.
I know. We're
Surprise.
both in the valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all were telling me about the Valley and the Valley accent. I got hit with it at a show that I did last night with my buddy Craig Conant, and some ladies walked up to me after the show, very wasted, but they were doing that exact voice that you were doing earlier.
But
Shelise.
like, not as a joke.
I don't think it was a joke. It might have been accentuated by the alcohol,
He wasn't
potentially.
nervous.
They were just Valley girls.
I think so. I think that's it. Yeah, and it was just such a. I thought at first they were from like England or Australia or something, and then I realized, oh no, it's just a very strange cadence that they're using here.
Yeah.
Hello, we're from the valley.
It's like sing-songy and it's like really hot here.
That's exactly it. Yes,
Yep,
that's
yep,
100%. But hers was a little more slurry.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like really hot here.
That's perfect.
Now I'm having PTSD from that forced conversation that I had.
You sure
last
it wasn't
night.
you?
No, it was not Shelise. 100% was not. There's been so much going on in the world of the Shiny Happy People cult, Lindsay. Just did an episode with Bryce.
Aw.
And yeah, he finally
He's
came back.
He's
Yes,
back.
he is back.
We love this.
And he was telling me all about Mommy Answer Lady, a.k.a. Holly McLean, I believe is how you say her name.
Yes.
I don't really know because I don't pay attention to her.
I would guess that's how it's
But
spelled.
yeah, apparently she's just been out there blasting everybody. She's working on her documentary, Shiny Slander.
Yes.
Very, very kitschy.
Very creative.
Is that what it is? Kitschy?
Yeah, kitschy.
So is
Or a
this-
little too on the nose, maybe.
So this is against the Shiny Happy People
it's
doc?
an anti-documentary to shiny, happy people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and if y'all don't know, Shelise has done a bunch of episodes on the Shiny Happy People cult. Incredible episodes. I did an episode
you.
with you.
Yep.
There were a bunch of folks. I mean, y'all went deep.
Talk to Emily.
Yeah, Emily.
Yeah.
That was an incredible episode
Yeah.
as well.
Love that.
You'll be talking to Lindsay
Yeah.
very soon, which y'all be on the lookout for that because Shalice's channel is just so much better than mine. But but yeah, this lady, after the documentary came out, went on a rampage, just calling everyone out for lying about Bill Gothard, lying about the Shiny Happy People cult. It wasn't that bad. No one was getting abused. That's ridiculous. I mean, really just going all in on defending the cult. And we all thought that she had been a part of the cult at some point as well. That was
Yeah.
not the case, actually. Yeah, never.
Why is she defending it?
Who knows?
How does she get off gaslighting everybody that's been coming forward with their stories to say that didn't happen if she wasn't even a part of it?
That's the whole thing. That we found out, basically did some digging and realized the only association she had with the cult while it was still in its heyday, let's say, was they had some family friends that were in the cult.
Oh.
But
so,
ended up having a falling out with that family because they were so crazy.
Davey, you know what's so funny about that is I get people like that in our comments who are like, the Mormons can't be that bad. I have friends who are Mormon and they're wonderful people. And I'm like, I bet they are. I bet they're lovely. That's usually the case.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're fine.
No.
Doesn't mean there isn't something going on behind closed doors under the
Exactly.
surface. Like, you don't know what's going on in their life. Just because they present shiny, happy people doesn't mean everything's fine.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Is it's this shiny, happy exterior,
Yes.
but under that surface, there's some bad stuff happening, as was the case in Bill Gothard's cult.
Yep.
So she was defending it, making it seem like she was associated or affiliated with the cult. Found out, no, not at all. And in fact, she's not even part of the evangelical community. Guess what, Shelise?
What?
She is Mormon.
You're waiting to drop that bombshell
I know.
on camera.
Get the real authentic reaction. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect. It makes so much sense.
It
Yeah.
As soon as I realized, I was like, oh, that's why. Not that she has no dog in the fight. There's no vested interest on her part. She's just defending fundamental religious ideology.
But that
And
is so
homeschooling.
interesting, though, because if I really sit and think about it, usually Mormons, having been one myself, will say, well, obviously that's a cult. Obviously that's a cult. And they go hard on Scientology, on shiny, happy people. But they can never say, oh, it's kind of the same as my thing.
Right.
So that's interesting that she's backing it. But it doesn't surprise me that she doesn't see what's going on under the surface because she probably has a lot of inner turmoil.
Right.
And maybe if she were to admit what was going on in that cult is bad, she may have to look at herself and realize that there's some similarities there.
That's exactly what
100%
we
it's
think
that.
it is.
Yeah.
We think it's partly that, and also just a little bit of clout chasing. She's a bit of a clout goblin, you know. So I get it. You know, you got to get views somehow, right? So you might as well be that naysayer, the devil's advocate, or whatever you want to
So
call it.
she has her
yeah.
own channel.
She has a couple channels.
So she's dedicated her channel to proving that the Shiny Happy People documentary was slander.
Yes. Well, one of the channels, and disclaimer, guys, I say this every time we talk about Holly. Do not go and watch her videos. Don't look up her channel, even if you're going to go leave, nasty gram comments or, dislikes or whatever. Just leave it alone because we don't want her to get any more audience or attention than she already has. Yeah. But she's got one channel that's all about her advice to mothers. She's the mommy answer lady. One of her, one of the articles that she wrote for her website was on discipline and how you can cover children's mouths when they're having a
So
temper
this is
tantrum.
Ruby Frankie in the making?
Yes.
So much.
Mommy
Yes.
So much
blogger,
so,
Mormon
yes.
mommy blogger. This is
Yes.
how to discipline your kids.
Oh, well,
Yes.
she even went so far as to say, hey, if you're having trouble finding, the right tool to spank your children with, a windshield wiper works great.
She found that to be the
So-
best disciplinary tool.
Is that in How to Train Up a Child? Or
I don't know if
Windshield
they ever,
wiper,
they use-
no.
because they
Yeah,
talk
they
about
use rods.
But they do talk about other rods.
like sticks and PVC pipe and
Yep.
yeah.
windshield wiper.
A windshield wiper.
wiper. Is that not the
that is-
craziest thing?
It always makes me wonder how many items did she go through to find that to be her effective tool?
And what made her think I'm just gonna pull this off the car?
Exactly.
Oh, that seems flexible and
Or I was
pretty.
just getting the oil changed and thought, that kind of looks like a good device to, raise my children with.
Oh, and there's even a reference in the article where she talks about how, if you hit yourself with it, you'll realize how much it hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, at least she's
Clearly
aware.
she got bounced
Right.
back. Well, aware, but then supporting it to other families.
Right,
And
it's-
sharing to them how effective it can be.
Like,
Yeah.
this hurts so bad, it's perfect.
Use it for your kids
Yeah.
that are smaller than you.
It makes me
Right.
physically sick having just had a child.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, I can't really relate or identify. I don't have kids that I know of. But as a new parent, can you imagine
No.
hitting your baby girl with a windshield wiper, just a rubber strap, basically? I mean, it's just insane. It's insane. But she had her own kids. I think she had like
7 or 9, somewhere in there.
It was a bunch.
She had a
bunch.
She had
wow.
a few. Yeah.
But after we had some back and forth, so we made an episode, a Friends with Davey episode about it. Lindsay was on it, Bryce was on it. Just talked about how ridiculous this stuff is because she was attacking a lot of the people that were on the Shiny Happy People documentary, reaching out to them, telling them that they were not remembering correctly or just flat out lying.
Full gaslight.
It was like craziness.
Harassment. I mean, she is not like any of the producers I've ever worked with in my professional life or for the show.
Well, she was even contacting
she's
family members, right?
Aggressive. Yes, she's been contacting people's family members, trying to dig into their past, and then obviously because she has such a bias, she's basically saying, "Yeah, you are a liar on Shiny Happy People. The producers did not do their job, and I have the truth." Homeschool mommy in Missouri.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So we had like a couple back and forths. She was commenting on my videos, never responded. Well, I mean, I did respond in the comments, but never went and responded on her channel. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out her oldest son is absolutely mortified by everything that's happening right now. Reached out to Lindsay, has reached out to me. At some point, we'll do an episode with him. But yeah,
That's gonna be so stop. Stop her
someone
oldest
from our-
on the channel.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
yeah.
Someone from
apologizing.
the
I'm so
group.
sorry for
Yeah.
my mother's behavior.
He's been making videos on TikTok, sharing how he's just appalled at her and he denounces everything that she's doing. That this is so unbelievable that she's doing this to people who are survivors and victims of abuse.
Is he still Mormon? Because I would bet he left the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
see,
he's
that makes sense
He's a
too.
journalist too, which is really incredible.
An actual
yeah,
journalist.
a real
Okay.
journalist,
A real- not
not
like his mother,
not a
yeah.
mommy journalist. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
journalist in quotes.
But it all kind of came to a head when Holly announced that she was filming this response documentary, right? And that's when she created her second channel, Shiny Slander. So that is the documentary that she's currently working on. I don't know where it is in
Her
the process.
approach to it though is so bananas though, because she has a GoFundMe group where she's trying to raise $300,000. So far it's at 3,200, I think.
Which is still way too much.
So it clearly
Holy shit.
$3 was too much.
Right.
But now she's like leaking out these YouTube videos, and there's like 30 plus of them at this point. When does a documentary ever do that? Like, you don't show your hand until
No.
you have your documentary completed and ready for the public to view. So it's this weird like trickle of stuff, and I don't know if it's just to try to garner more attention so that she can raise the rest of the funds. I don't really lay in bed at night trying to figure out what she's doing. It sounds like it when we're talking like this, but like it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's very, very strange.
Like you've literally just shown your hand, and yet everybody's like gonna wait for this documentary. Who?
But what is her angle? Who are her guests coming on saying that you're lying or that someone else is lying?
Oh, she's found the people that are, other I don't even want to say they're ex-ATI people, but like they were people that were also in ATI and IBLP and Bill
had a
Gothard.
great experience.
Yeah, and like nothing ever happened to us. Or like
Yeah.
I was at headquarters too, and his window was always open and the doors were always open. And I'm like, but I'm literally sitting here telling you that the doors were closed for me.
Yeah.
So you cannot actually say that they were never closed.
Yeah.
I will say they were almost always open.
Yeah.
But they were sometimes closed.
That's another thing that drives me crazy about some people in the comments, which for the most part, we have an incredible community. And
Yes.
I would say it's like 90% positive comments. So we love you guys. If you're watching from my channel, yes, you guys are amazing. There are always the few who have that survivorship bias who say, well, that wasn't my experience, so that can't be theirs. And so I just respond, I could say the same to you. That wasn't your experience because it wasn't theirs. And we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Two things can be true at once. There are a multitude of experiences that can happen. Just because you don't think one is possible, do you think maybe it could be possible? I mean, for them to be like, didn't happen because that wasn't my experience is the worst argument that I've ever heard.
Yeah, maybe you didn't get footsied by Bill Gothard because you didn't have pretty feet. We don't know, okay? I'm just
Maybe
saying.
you're not his type. It just, it's such a terrible, it's a terrible argument. And it's just so gaslighting, and it's invalidating to the people who did have a horrible experience. And people act like it's fun to come out and talk about your experience. It is re-traumatizing. It is scary. It is vulnerable to even step out into the light in the first place. So for someone to sit and tell you that that didn't happen is also re-traumatizing, because most of these people who do come out, if they did go to their church leader or whoever's in charge and tell them, most of them said, it's your fault, or you didn't, or they didn't do anything wrong, or whatever it is, they're already being invalidated. And so when you come out and get re-invalidated all over again, people just don't get how hard that is to hear.
And I don't think, unless you've experienced it, you're never going to understand how difficult that truly is and how damaging it can really be when people attack, not just question what happened, right? But actually attack you for even saying anything. And that's basically what's happening with Holly. It's not just questioning, hey, are you sure it was really like that? It's like, it wasn't like that. You're wrong. You're a liar. Bill Gothard is great, or whatever.
She's a highly unsafe person.
Yes.
For victims and survivors to be anywhere around, which I think is another reason why we've said don't go and look at her page, because if you are someone who has experienced these type of abuses in the past, someone like that could really harm your mental health and your capability in continuing to move forward. And a part of that moving forward is using your voice.
Right.
So she's saying it's slander, but it's really quite egregious what she's doing to people's mental health in what she thinks is standing up for her belief, which by all means, Holly, stand up for your belief, but not in attacking other people who have found that little monochrome of bravery to finally fight through that wall to go, it doesn't matter what anyone says because I stand in my truth.
Yes.
Even though you stand in that truth, you're still going to find that space where you question if you're being believed. Always, I think I will still have that little bit of questioning. Am I really being believed? And then you have someone like her come out here and just shit all over it.
It almost goes beyond, am I being believed? Because this is the experience. So I don't know if I told you, Shelise, but I went back to Indianapolis recently. And that is where I was locked in solitary confinement as part of a program at the Colt compound in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So I went back to the compound a couple months ago and was walking through it, just kind of remembering, reliving stuff. And I was questioning myself. And I talked to Lindsay about it. I was like, I thought that that's where Bill Gothard's office was, but it didn't look the same. And so I think I'm just misremembering. And she was like, no, that's where it was. No, you're right. You're right.
I got you.
So it's the trauma brain that kicks in. So it's not just other, questioning whether other people are believing you, but even questioning your own reality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how deep it gets. And when you've got someone like Holly challenging you and attacking you, it's like, wait, am I just crazy?
Because it's gaslighting.
Yes.
She's literally gaslighting people.
Exactly.
And it's terrifying to start questioning yourself when you know that it took so much work to get to the point where you even uttered a sound about what happened. You know, she's just another bully in this system of churches and high control religion.
Yeah. Well, and she's also, some of the videos that she's posting on her own channel, the Shiny Slander channel, she is using segments that I have done on my podcast. And Shelise, I don't know if you know this, she's using segments that you've done on your podcast. Yeah, congratulations.
I made it to the hater sphere. I made it as a YouTuber.
You did. Now, she only has like 300 subscribers, so... Not a lot of exposure
but
there.
The videos have been viewed, though. Where's the plaque for this? You have reached the hater sphere.
The hater sphere is so great. You do have your YouTube plaque.
I do.
Behind
it's
you.
back there
Is that
somewhere.
visible on camera? Look at that.
Amazing.
Right behind her microphone, 100,000 subscribers. Incredible. Well done, Shelise. Like I said, y'all, her channel is so much better than mine. Watch her stuff mostly.
It's not.
I haven't even watched. So Bryce showed me a couple of the clips where she's, essentially challenging my whole take on the Shiny Happy People cult. But I haven't actually seen the clips that she's done of Shalise's videos.
Her clips with Shelise are from Emily's interviews with you. She came down very hard on Emily. There's 5 episodes. To that poor girl's story.
And Emily is going through so much.
I know.
Her health declining. I mean, and she just stays so bright.
She's such
she
a warrior.
Is a light.
Yeah.
And just to see everything that she's had to go through because of her trauma expressing itself physically is so heartbreaking. And to think that there's people like this woman who are attacking her, probably making it worse. I don't know if she knows about it, but
she's aware. Yeah.
That's awful.
But it's
just
egregious. There's no conscience.
It's unconscionable, whatever that word is. Yeah. I mean, it just makes me so furious. Because I can take it. I think it's funny. Go ahead, do your thing, girl. Whatever. I'll roast you regardless, and I'll be fine. I'm a stand-up comedian that grew up in a cult and homeschooled. You can't hurt me. You've
been hurt enough.
Good luck. Do your best, please.
Winter
Many
wipers?
have tried. But for her to attack someone like Emily, who is very emotionally vulnerable, is physically vulnerable right now. That to me is unforgivable.
Yeah.
That's just not something
where does the
good
Christian
people
part
do.
fall in on this? Because Holly has said multiple times that Shiny Happy People is an attack on Christianity as a whole, as well as homeschoolers.
Which you're not even a Christian, Holly, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
I was going to say, well, some would argue that Mormons aren't Christian.
Right, exactly. Like us, ex-ATI kids, are you sure you're a Christian? Because you were a
Bill
cult
Gothard,
to us.
Bill Gothard would not say you're a Christian. In fact, he would say you're a false prophet.
52, honey.
I wonder if she knows
about John Smith.
She has to know.
She knows because we've already talked about it on Davey's podcast, and she loves watching Davey.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you, Holly?
Biggest fan.
I love that camera glance. That was so perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, I mean, she's just unhinged. She's unhinged, probably mentally ill. Definitely mentally ill. There's no way that someone can behave like that if they are a well-adjusted, functioning adult human.
I would say that there is actually probably just so much indoctrination that's gone on in her, and I'm not trying to play a little violin of sympathy, but I think in realizing, even through my own family and other parents, the generation that they come from and how religion played such an instinctive role in their lives, it's hard for them. I don't know if we said this before camera started, but it's hard for them to really take ownership for these choices, because the moment they do, it's like a Jenga puzzle. And if they take that one piece out that admits, like, this is the part where I fundamentally failed, that entire Jenga tower falls. And then what are you left with? You're just
crisis.
left with
that's what you're left with.
Therapy. That's what you're left with. And I wish, and I always cry out to parents, go get therapy. Like, do it, own it, so that the rest of your life can be with your kids, so that you can have that, like, that reconnecting again. Because at this point, a lot of people are just disowning, or, I'm like no contact with my parents.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bryce went through it too.
Yeah.
And then this is tough. And the only reason I'm comfortable sharing this is because Bryce and I did talk about it on a podcast episode, the last podcast episode. His dad passed away, and those relationships still had not been repaired.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, he was able to spend a lot of time with his dad, but there was still just that denial right up until the bitter end, where he just kept deferring to Bryce's mom, and so he'll never get that closure, and that's heartbreaking.
It's hard to like release it, but I think it's easier for that generation, and again, it's not an excuse, but it's easier for them to defend and deny than it ever will be to like take ownership, right, and responsibility.
Well, also because you have to realize that they probably don't want to take responsibility because they love their kids so much that, like you said, it would mean that they did something wrong, and they don't believe they did anything wrong because they thought they were doing the absolute best thing for their kids. And that's why these videos are so important. They are some of my favorite comments in our comment section when I see someone say, I realize now how I failed my children, and I reached out to them. Thank you for helping me understand. It's such a huge thing to be able to put your pride aside and say, wow, I messed up and I didn't realize it, and to take ownership. And there's nothing better than to be able to love your kids enough or that much to be able to say I was wrong.
Yes.
That's so like, true. So we did an episode with a lady named Christine
Fowler.
Yes, she is incredible. She was a Shiny Happy People Cult mom in Canada. I had no idea that the Shiny Happy People Cult would send family representatives to families' homes to make sure that they were following all the rules correctly. I had no idea
coordinators
until I talked to Christine. But she was, sharing her experience on this podcast episode about how wrong she was, which was huge anyway, right? But during the course of the podcast, she talked about spanking, and that as long as the spanking is administered correctly, that she still thinks that's okay. Well, there were a lot of people that, said spanking's never okay. It's not okay. She actually came back and said, I've thought about this a lot, and you're right. Spanking's never okay.
Wow,
and I
that
am
just gave me goosebumps.
happy to admit it now.
Yeah.
So
she's the
like
mother
that,
we all needed. Like I'm telling you, I've messaged her so many times, and I'm like, you are therapy for my soul when I listen to you talk.
She's
because
such a
I don't
sweetheart.
know if mine will ever come around.
Yeah.
So to know that at least some kids are getting
people.
exactly like you said, setting down that pride and allowing yourself to admit and be vulnerable and say, you know what, I kind of messed up, but there's still time to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
And your kids, I know it seems impossible and like your kids are never going to want to have contact with you, but if you make that actual change in your soul, your kids will gravitate to you quicker than you think.
Yeah.
I guarantee
Or at
it.
least it's a possibility.
They will listen. They will at least potentially take that moment to hear you because your energy and your attitude will have shifted. That's why we don't listen, because we can
it
tell.
has to be a genuine energy shift, because if you're like, okay, I'm sorry,
right,
come back, like, okay, I shouldn't have spanked you.
Fine,
like,
well, that's not
so
work.
hard, sorry. Like, that's not the attitude
we good now?
need. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Like
I'm sorry about the windshield wiper. Okay, yeah, whatever.
I'm sorry if I hurt you.
Those are my favorites.
It's like, don't you if.
That's actually my apology strategy. Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings or whatever.
If I get an if, I'm out. I bounce. Like, there's no if.
Yeah.
Take the if part out. I am
but
sorry.
It's just been so cool to see all these people showing their support in their own way in the comments, reaching out personally. It's just been such a gratifying and validating experience. Lindsay and I have talked a lot about her story, and just so you're aware, Shelise, so she was part of Gothard's Inner Circle at the Shiny Happy People Cult headquarters in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois.
Yep.
How long did you live there, Lindsay?
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years with Bill Gothard. He cherry-picked her from a conference that she was at. Yep. She ended up traveling up to headquarters with him and living there and, becoming one of, I don't even know what to call it, like a protege, or, well, it's not even a protege because you weren't being groomed for leadership.
I was a student. No, I was just anyone that was in the homeschooling program, they called us students. So I was a student that was brought up to headquarters to then work on staff. So I was a staff member, and because I was a girl with cute skill sets like cooking and sewing, playing the piano.
And big hair. Don't forget the big hair. Big curly hair.
Yeah, that's useful. But it took a little while for them to figure out where I should land. Like, you always, if you're just brought up because Bill, you catch his eye at a seminar, you're brought up and immediately put in the kitchen. So while they figure out, is there anywhere that you could be effective?
Oh, got it.
So that he can keep you there.
Yeah.
So then I started taking typing, like little online typing classes, or what, it wasn't really online. I don't this is 98, 97.
Like the floppy disk you
yeah,
put in.
Floppy disk. Wow.
I was a piano player. So like those skills, I'm I could type. Like, I was like 98 words
Got
a minute.
those fast fingers,
words
girl.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I guess we could put you in an office. And so I was in the homeschooling division. So I worked with a lot of the homeschooling moms, and at 18 years old, giving wisdom and advice to moms that were struggling with the program.
Wow.
It was so good.
We're going to get into this if she's willing on
Of
our
course
channel.
I'm willing. I
Girl,
can't wait.
we got a lot to talk about.
There's so much.
So much that still has not been, the surface
Lindsay's
has not
story
been
is-
scratched.
It's incredible, but it's also so
terrifying.
inspiring. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
I love that you said inspiring
She said
and
terrifying?
I said terrifying.
I didn't hear
I was
you.
like, wait, did I hear that right from both sides?
That wasn't the right echo.
You're
that I was
sitting in the
looking
middle
for.
going, whoa, what was that? You're like, oh.
Yin and yang is what that was. That is trauma. Like, that is what trauma is.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
Terrifying and
those
it can
two
be
different
inspiring.
aspects of it. Yeah, exactly. For me, it was very inspiring.
Yeah.
But,
to know that.
Lindsay had to suffer through a lot of Bill Gothard's grooming tactics. The praying together so that he had an excuse to hold her hand or touch her however he wanted. Playing footsie was his big thing. So she went through all of that and has gone through very intensive therapy to recover from it. But she also happened to meet her now husband while working at headquarters.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to get into because Lindsay brought some very interesting memoirs
Show and tell.
from her time there. Yeah,
Or
this is gonna be great.
read and tell and listen and tell.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not really sure. What should we do first?
Just
Okay, with
read
props.
and listen shocked, basically.
Okay.
So, Lindsay, give the quick recap of what happened at headquarters, how you met your husband,
Hubs.
what happened when that was discovered, the relationship was discovered,
Cliff
just so
note
that we've got
version.
some context here. Yeah.
Context is he showed up, this to-be husband someday. He showed up at headquarters maybe 2/3 into my time there, a year and a half in. And I thought he was super cute, but he was infringing upon my workflow. And so I was like, I don't like you. And also boys.
Cooties, ew.
Sorry, I'm going to put my hand to you, but I'm like, boys, ew.
But you were also, what, like 21 at this point?
No, maybe 20. I mean,
Okay,
I'm
20.
like, oh no, I'm
No, I'm
20.
not
Don't age
21.
me
Oh
that
my
much,
God.
JB. But I think I was like 20 years old at that. Yeah, I was 20.
Yeah.
Or
So
maybe-
cooties were long gone.
Yeah.
But not in the cult.
Not like that. No.
Yeah.
No. There was, even though I was attracted to people, there was that if they even see me liking that person, it's over.
Right.
And I had to be very careful at headquarters because other people had already been sent home because of my presence there, males. And so I was like, well, I really think this guy's great, but I don't want to get him into trouble because I know what, I'm toxic. Because I'm
you're
so
to
close
blame.
to Bill.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm with Bill. Not, that sounds like we were dating. I'm under Bill's eye. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Under his authority.
And so-
You were
I was
under
gonna
his
say,
There you go.
authority
Thank you. I'm
umbrella.
like,
There we go.
It's the I don't like
Shelise
saying
I know the
that.
words.
It drives
She
me
gets it.
crazy. I
She
love it.
gets
She
it.
knows. She can say it. I'll let her fill in the blanks. What are the Mad Libs? And what's next? But anyway, so I started to really like him, and we were working together quite a bit. And long story short, we ended up kissing each other. Yeah, Saturday I kind of instigated taking him up to the attic area where we had to file a bunch of stuff. And I'm like,
file a bunch of stuff. File a bunch of stuff.
I love that it was in an attic. She's like the Anne Frank of
be-
making out.
Gonna be out of
That's
sight.
so inappropriate. I'm sorry
My
for that.
God, you just went
Wow.
there?
He went there.
Davey.
Yikes.
Comedian, I'll give you a
Yeah.
pass. But anyway, so we had this kiss and it was great. But then I was like, oh, I get why my parents didn't want me to had no touchy, right? Like don't have
this is
kisses. So
great.
I'm like, this is amazing.
awesome.
This is great.
I don't know where this could lead. And hello electricity. So that night, I called him. We had been having phone calls back and forth with each other in our respective homes. And I just said to him, like, look, that was great. Thanks. But we can't ever do this again.
Yeah.
Like, not here. Like, it's so dangerous. And people have already gone home. And I really don't want you to. He was working in the computer department. I'm like, you're really valuable to this place. I'm not. And I won't be the one that gets sent home. Well, apparently, another student, overheard our phone call conversation. And it's like 1 a.m. So I still want to know what the hell you were doing at 1 a.m.
What were you doing?
Sneaking
yourself.
around.
I'm just saying. But he came and knocked on my husband's door and was like, hey, I overheard you and Lindsay talking, and it sounds like you guys kissed and whatever. I'm going to give you 24 hours to tell Bill or I will. So he calls me right back. He's like,
Buzzkill.
Hey,
What a
yeah, I was
loser.
like, wow. I'm like, wow, that kiss went from fabulous to fudge.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're a lip
So,
virgin, bro.
whoop. I don't think he was.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Okay. All right.
Why would you be up at that time
That's
of night
so true,
if you go to bed at 8
he was probably off
p.m. and then you get
fraternizing.
up at 5 a.m. to supplicate with God? I'm just
That
saying.
right?
I think you were doing things. But anyway, so we had to go tell Bill, and he told Bill. I told the HR dude who I knew as a family friend, so that was pretty humiliating. And all we did was have a kiss.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, as a 46-year-old woman now, I look back at that and I'm like, that is so ridiculous. Those were moments that I should have never had spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, and instead
Yeah, it was a beautiful
everything
moment.
around it just became just so gross and awful, and I was evil and this wicked woman. Anyway, my husband was sent home with his brother 2 days later. He had to write a letter and have it read to the staff. It's like this huge walk of shame. Yep, huge walk of shame. And then I remained.
Yep.
I didn't write a letter, didn't say anything, just walked around. You could feel the scarlet letter on me. They're like, again,
I was going to say that's
Toxic,
interesting because they normally
toxic.
blame the girls, right?
Oh,
But
very
Bill
much so.
wanted you there.
I mean, I was blamed. Definitely, like, it takes two to do the tango.
Yeah.
But it still was like, he's the one that gets to go home because I'm still Bill's
Right.
girl. I'm still a Gothard girl.
Yeah,
Yep.
so there are exceptions,
always.
which is Bill.
Yes.
Yes.
Bill is the reason
Bingo.
I'm there.
Yeah.
So 3 months later, he comes to me after a staff meeting, sits me down. He's like, well, Lindsay, I just want to let you know we're going to be sending you to Oklahoma because the board no longer wants you here. Or I can no longer hold the board back. Or and I was like, wait, the board what?
I would love
Like,
to keep playing footsie with you, but the higher ups have
they're
said
just,
not cool.
they
anymore.
won't let
you know,
me.
this fraternization with us, it's just not working out for me because I want to keep my cult. He's like, I'm going to send you down to Oklahoma City Training Center where you can work on a program to help other young women not fall into the pitfalls you did. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
The anti-kissing program.
Here it is.
Yay.
Don't kiss a boy around the Gothard cult.
So
That's
you
it.
were blamed. It was just put off.
Exactly.
It just took it. It was delayed.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to go. I think I should go home because there was a lot of turmoil at home. And I'm like, I really think I should go home. He's like, oh, well, I already spoke to your father and he agrees that you should go to Oklahoma. So I had no conversation really with my parents.
Yeah.
It was off I got shipped.
Yep.
And it's a demotion. It's humiliating, super embarrassing. If you're like high staff at headquarters and then you're down at the furthest away training center from headquarters.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I met your co-host, Bryce.
Bryce, yeah.
He was working there,
small
and I
connects.
roommated with his sister. They were also not really family friends, but we were in the same kind of like community when we lived in Texas, so I knew their family. So even bigger humiliated shame to be roommated with this other girl who is with also an upstanding ATI family.
Right.
Like I wanted to die. But 5 months later, played my little cards and gave a little testimony about how the Lord had changed my life. Could I please go home now? And I did. I went home, and I swore I would never go back to an IBLP like location ever again.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, my husband asked for permission to court me with my father. My dad said no. It was a mess. I'll go into that later. And about 6 to 8 weeks after that, because he didn't give up and his dad got involved, talking to my dad. So now we have two dads talking about
So awkward.
Two patriarchs going head to head.
20-plus-year-old children.
Yeah.
22 and 24.
That's the most bizarre part about it.
I wish I could
These are
hear that
adults.
conversation. I wish I could hear his dad being like, well, you don't think my son's good enough for your daughter? Like, well, who's your son?
I
Like,
think it kind of went with my son's miserable. Because he really loved your daughter.
Well, that's really sweet.
Yeah. They were so...
Everything I've heard about
Bryce
her
just
husband,
moped,
just
apparently.
an incredible dude.
Yeah.
Like, incredible. I could never, Such a nice guy.
Yes, you could, Davey. Maybe.
Oh.
But so we got engaged, and then this beautiful little letter was sent to my husband from Bill Gothard when he found out that we were
All the
engaged.
tea.
Get into it.
First of all, not that they can really see this, but it's on his letterhead.
Love that.
Wow.
Instituting Basic
Yeah.
Life Principles. So official.
Yeah.
Bill
hold on.
Gothard, Presidente.
This is official. Try to debunk this, whatever your name was. I forgot it already.
Crazy. Oh,
Holly?
and this was in the year 2000.
Right?
In the year 2000. Yeah. Right after Y2K.
Yeah,
Love
April
that.
6th.
So you're going to read this?
Do you want me to read it? Do
I
you want to read it? Do
no,
you want
I
to read
want
it?
you to read it.
I feel like she wants to read it.
But I
it's
feel like
so
you should
good.
read it because it's Bill and
Okay.
it could be in a man's voice.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. All right. I will read this.
Be-
As the
be
patriarch of the
Bill.
podcast,
I also
I
love
will go
this
ahead and read this.
because you don't know this
What it's gonna
letter.
say.
I have no idea what this
I'm
says.
like, I've read it 1,000 times.
You've told me about the letter.
Yes, I have.
But this is the original document.
It
It's
is.
crazy.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've got the official address up at the top. I'm not going to read that because I don't want to. But anyways,
People know where it is.
Also, he spelled Bryce 2 different ways, which is interesting. I don't know if you saw that little typo. But anyways,
Oh, yeah. I've seen all the
it
things.
says, "Dear Bryce, thank you for your letter. I was happy to hear from you. Your letter arrived the day after I had a phone conference with Lindsay's father. In that conversation, he explained some of his wishes for Lindsay, and I expressed surprise that I had not heard from either you or Lindsay on your growing friendship. Since Lindsay's parents have given me the privilege and responsibility of overseeing her welfare at the Institute for the past several years, I have made it my responsibility to try to understand some of the needs she is facing in her life at this critical time."
Hold on.
What?
Lindsay's needs are not Bill's responsibility.
Crazy.
The entitlement to your needs makes me want to throw up.
That's so
Yeah.
gross.
I
That's
have to
disgusting.
say, I didn't realize how this was going to feel hearing someone else read it.
Woo!
Is it just making your skin crawl?
I'm in a lot of feels.
Okay.
But continue, because
Oh
you need to
my
hear.
God.
You need to see this.
Based on these factors, I would strongly urge you to review the scriptures such as 1 Corinthians 7, Isaiah 54 and 56, Psalms 127 and 128, and others which indicate that marriage and the timing of marriage is more a man's choice than God's leading. Studies of successful marriages consistently affirm that the optimum age for happy marriages is 28 years old for the young man and 26 for the young lady. By capturing Lindsay's heart at this time in her life, you are cutting short several vital and valuable years of single service, which would only enhance a future marriage. You are also encouraging her to make decisions at a time when she is very vulnerable due to the upheavals in her family. Oh, I have so much to say, but I'm going to keep reading. Bryce, you are the third young man that Lindsay has had strong feelings for in the past several years, and it is her father's wish that she wait longer for marriage, even though he has given you permission for courtship. I am watching many marriages of ATI students, and I must affirm the statement of Roger Magnuson when he said at Knoxville, "I am troubled over the growing trend of marriages among ATI students that are in their late teens and early 20s. Marriage is for a long time, and once you enter into it, scripturally, you must cut off certain opportunities and responsibilities which you would have had as a single person. I trust that God will give you and your parents special wisdom and grace to have the kind of love that Jacob had and that God identified in him. Through Christ our Lord, Bill Gothard." What the fuck?
I have a question as an outsider.
Please.
Yes.
I thought that they encouraged young marriage. Mm-hmm. So he's the exception is Bill, right? Because
Exactly.
he wants
Exactly.
control over
He
you.
specifically wants me for 5 more years. That was another like coined phrase for him was single years of service for the
Yeah.
Lord, and you would make 5-year increments of promise to the Lord. Like, I'm going to give the next year 5 years of my life to single service for the Lord. I'd been hearing that term since I was about 15 years old.
I just want to. This is nothing more than a jealousy letter. That's all this is. Literally,
it
this
gives
is
me
just
the
him
ick.
like, oh
Especially
my God, disgusting.
that first paragraph, especially where he's when he's inserting his.
I have made it my responsibility
Mm-hmm.
to try and understand some of the needs she is facing.
Yeah.
I mean
Meanwhile, doing the things that he was doing.
Yes.
To me.
Correct. Yeah. The upheaval, the vulnerability that he talks about because of your family problem, he created that vulnerability.
He was taking advantage of that vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And he created the vulnerability that I came to him with because I was raised in his program. He knew exactly what I knew and what I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this makes me emotional. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm like almost crying over here, and I'm like, this isn't even my perpetrator, and it's making me very, like, because people need to understand the context. This is a perpetrator's letter. This is an abuser's letter that we are reading that he wrote to intimidate the person that she actually wanted to be with. This is not just the leader of a cult. This is someone who hurt her, and it's so wrong on so many levels, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Because, as you're saying that, like, he could have stopped me from marrying the person I love.
Yeah.
And the person that I have now been married to for 24 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful, genuine love, but because of his own depravity.
Yeah, and
jealousy and whatever. I'd not really felt I didn't look at it as jealousy until you said that, and I was like, wow, that's actually, yeah.
But
it's insidious.
Yes, Shelise, because what you just said there, because I don't really, because I was in the cult, I was so involved in it that from an outsider perspective, when you read something like this, what you said, this was Lindsay's abuser trying to intimidate the man that was trying to marry her, that had sacrificed so much on his part. Yeah. You would sacrifice so much on your part, Lindsay. And Bill is trying to insert himself as an abuser. The audacity
as the authority
is insane.
Yeah.
And doing it to Bryce, telling him, he's making it seem like Lindsay's parents gave me the privilege. No, honey, you took it.
Yeah.
You took that upon yourself. He always told me, because I'm not with my birth father, so my dad is my adopted father. And he would always say, oh, well, you're fatherless. And I'm like, look, I don't get along with the guy that I call dad. Like, we got some major issues, but according to your umbrella of authority, I have one.
Yeah.
But he always pushed himself as another tier, or would just bump that umbrella out and put him as my father. And so for him to be doing this, it just, this is why it's page protected, because it's ripped it up.
Yeah. He's finding a pain point in your life and trying to insert himself through that pain point, knowing that at that age you would probably give into it.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're vulnerable.
I mean, at this point, probably not. Like, my husband did not tell me about this letter.
Well, at this point, no.
Not until after we were married did I see this.
Yeah.
Because I think he knew at this point I was so done. I probably would have gone up and destroyed headquarters myself with my bare hands.
Right.
I was so done.
Yeah. That was a good move for him to protect your mental state.
Yeah. Because
but that's the kind of guy Bryce is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how he is. He's a nurturer.
He is a protector.
He's a protector.
Yeah.
I haven't met him in person.
I feel like
but
you know
the way
him.
that I'm talking about him right now,
bring him over.
I feel like I have met him in person from everything that I've heard about him.
I literally told him today, I was like, can you just play hooky on your job today and come with me? But he's a very introverted, super shy guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't live the experiences that I did. He was a male. A very well-behaved male, Davey.
Yeah, not like me. I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. But he was just a very well-behaved
not that well-behaved. He made out with you at headquarters.
But that was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. He didn't initiate it.
It wasn't his fault, but it kind of was after we got kissy. Didn't take long to persuade him.
Right.
But you know, he didn't really even have like the home lifestyle that I did. You know, mine was a lot more abusive, a lot more authoritarian control. And my father was like very much a dictator in the way that he treated us, and a lot of physical abuse with discipline. And Bryce didn't really have that experience growing up. Still the very indoctrinated materials, but I learned through the experience of the documentary that he kind of like just put it in a cupboard somewhere in his head, even as a teenager. And him going to headquarters was because he wanted to get into computers. He'd been fascinated with them as an early teen, but he was like, oh, I just need to work on bigger computer systems. And headquarters gives me that, because I can't really go and get a job in the real world right now, given the way that IBLP and ATI kids' brains work. You know, we have to stay in ministry. And so his goal was just to be there to work on a bigger program. It had nothing to do with, you know, serving Jesus. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? How am I, what? Like this whole time, I'm like, I ruined a Christian man. You know, and he's just like, I mean, you know, he still had his belief at the time, but it was like, not with the fervor or this like inward battle that I had. He was just like, I just go to work every day in the office, and then I go back to my little home, and that was it.
This is the perfect example of two things can be true at once.
That's right.
People can internalize or not internalize in whatever way that they choose, depending on their circumstances, the lens through which they view things. So that's the perfect example of not everyone is going to come away traumatized, but that doesn't mean some people aren't. With the exact same experience or the same umbrella, but different experiences.
Some of us are just better at dissociating.
And
that's really what it is.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, for me, that's exactly what it was. I mean, as horrible as my drug addiction was, it allowed me to just forget it all. I never had to deal with it for 10 plus years because I was just wasted all the time. Now, once I got sober, I had to deal with a lot of that old trauma, working back through it and everything, and then finally being able to rebuild the relationship with my family. But for a long time, it was just like, oh, no, it's fine. It's behind me. It's good. I'm fine. There was one other thing in that letter, Shelise, it was in the middle paragraph. Studies of successful marriages consistently affirm that the optimum age for happy marriages is 28 years old for the young man and 26 for the young lady.
According to what survey?
What studies?
Exactly. What survey?
I'm so curious about that. And also, from a biblical, for him to start out with, hey, read these Bible verses.
Right.
Chapters.
Okay. In biblical times, they were getting married so young.
Yeah.
Like
when the woman
14,
starts menstruating.
15 years old. Yeah.
Yep.
Not to mention, isn't there a verse in the Bible that says, like, you should get married instead of burning with passion or something along those lines?
Yep.
Right? So to avoid
premarital sex.
Impropriety. Thank you.
Getting it on.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
To avoid those pitfalls, those temptations, you should just go ahead and get married. I mean, it literally says that in the Bible.
That's why I was confused. I'm like, wait, did I misunderstand IBLP this whole time? Because I thought people were getting married really young because of the religion, not the religion, but because of the
belief
umbrella.
System.
Yeah.
The belief system is.
Yeah.
And
but
the whole thing about Roger,
and it's also following your parents. Like my father's had already kind of committed, but he already says, I talked to Lindsay's father this morning. He's still showing, I still have control. I'm still trying to have control over this situation of Lindsay, and I have her father on my side.
Yeah, it's just intimidation.
And I'm like, okay, if that's true, then like, why isn't he just manning up and being like, hey, not the time.
Right.
No, let's get Bill Gothard to do it.
That's insane.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 21.
Oh, so just a year later after you left.
The comment about Roger Magnuson too. That was the guy that supposedly had the entire Bible memorized or some craziness like that, right? Yeah, he was
at this point, but yeah, maybe.
Whatever. So
another one of his lackey,
this
believers.
Quote, I'm troubled over the growing trend of marriages among ATI students that are in their late teens and early 20s.
I will say also though, at this point in time at headquarters, there was marriage after marriage after marriage.
So he was just losing workers.
He was losing them
exactly
because people were like, "Oh my goodness, I like you, I love you, let's go." I went to so many different weddings when I was at headquarters. It was amazing because people were connecting with each other, and also, where else were you going to connect?
Yeah,
you're a homeschool kid out in the middle of nowhere,
and now all of a sudden you're with a bunch of people.
The most beautiful, it's like central casting comes to headquarters, and everybody's just like, wow, and we're all just working for God.
I wonder how many of those marriages actually lasted.
Don't know. Actually.
Don't know? Okay. I would be so curious on that. But that's exactly what I was going to say, Shelise. He's mad because they're losing their free labor.
Yeah. Yes.
That's really what's happening here. Hey, guys, quit doing that. We need you to be on staff, basically free of charge.
Yeah, but also don't date and don't hold hands and don't kiss until you're married.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have both. You know, it doesn't work that way.
Absolutely.
Well, at headquarters, you didn't have nearly the oversight like the training centers did, because they're hotels and you're stuck inside of a hotel.
Right.
And at headquarters, everybody stayed in homes that the property owned. Oh. And so I was like a house mom with like 6 girls underneath me. There were little apartment complexes and things like that. Some were closer to his building, his office. Then there were some that were down near the bigger office, and then that's like for the females, and then the boys were further off campus just because they can walk in the dark and blah blah blah, safety reasons.
Oh wow.
So I think without a lot of oversight from people, it was a lot easier. Some people had cars. I found out later that like some people were like going to see movies on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here like going to church with Bill and you get to go to the theater? Like I was so mad. Yeah. I was like, I had no choice but to be as good as I possibly could because he always needed to know where I was.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the difference in experiences.
I know. It's vast.
Whether you're at Oakbrook or not Oakbrook, the headquarters.
Yeah.
Whether it is Oakbrook, right? Yeah. I was thinking the Oakbrook College of Law. Sorry. Whether you're at headquarters or Indianapolis or Oklahoma City or Flint, Michigan or whatever, the difference in experiences were so crazy. Because Bryce, not husband Bryce, but co-host Bryce, he had some latitude. He had a little bit of freedom, kind of like you were talking about, going off campus and doing his thing, right?
He was watching movies at the training
he was watching
center,
The Matrix,
like over and over and over.
Repeat. Yeah,
it kills me.
Me, I mean, I was
solitary confinement.
I mean, dude, it was so intense the level of scrutiny that I was under. Versus some of these other people. Yeah, like, Indy was for bad kids anyway.
And it really depended on like who was in charge of those training centers.
Yeah.
It was like the families, right? Every family was different. And like Josh P. says in the documentary, the father was the cult leader and the family was an island and the father the cult leader. So it just depended on like how fringe were your parents, how strict were they going to be. And then it came down to also with the training centers, Bill always usually tended to put a married couple, an older married couple in charge.
Right.
So some were more militant, some were a little more relaxed. And it just really depended who were in authority because they really drove the energy of how that training center behaved.
Yeah.
And Indy being the worst.
Oh, yeah. It was, it was like Gestapo level.
Indy freaked me out. I felt ill every time I'd have to go there.
It was creepy. And going back to Indianapolis, a couple months ago, I didn't have like the emotional response that I thought I might. Maybe it just felt very surreal. Felt like I was in a dream. But walking through the building, I felt that it was almost like a pressure, just the memory of how controlling and isolating it truly was. But yeah, that place was a nightmare. But at the same time, I've heard that Oklahoma City was somewhat chill.
Yeah, depended on who you were.
Comparatively speaking, I guess, yeah.
Depended on who you were.
And then, of course, they had Big Sandy. But I think that was actually like right when I was leaving.
Yeah.
And that's where they moved their paramilitary, their little cult army, got moved down to Big Sandy where they did all their alert training. The alert men did a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups and ran a bunch of miles and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're still doing that.
They are.
Down there.
And they're bringing in people now that are they don't have to be ATI students any longer. That was always a requirement. Again, because they wanted to know how much you knew. They needed to know that you knew the ways.
Right.
And now they're opening it up. I think you just have to be Christian, I think. I don't even know if that's a baseline for it either.
They're taking anybody.
Yeah. Don't know the barrier to
literally,
entry
we're just trying to stay afloat here.
Yeah.
Did you hate shiny happy people? Come join Alert. Who knows?
Learn how to fight without a gun.
Flagpoles.
Weird. But yeah, they're still doing their thing. They're still making money. They're still brainwashing people.
They're still kicking.
I mean, the more that we can talk about this, the more we can potentially keep unsuspecting victims away from that shit.
Yeah, the awareness is key. They are rebranding.
Yes.
Even though everything down at the bottom will say like a subsidiary of IBLP, they're now calling it the Home Discipleship Network. So be on the lookout. Home Discipleship Network. Home Discipleship Network
instead
is
of
what
ATI?
they are. The Advanced Training Institute, the homeschooling program,
Yeah.
disbanded a couple years ago.
Okay.
I think with the heat that they were starting to get, but also their enrollment has been waning since the year 2000. Like it started to tip down. It had always continued to go up, but at this point it just started to slide down. So I don't think they ever really recovered. And I think the stuff that went along with the Duggars, I think a lot of families actually were just aging out, you know, and I don't think that recruitment was very high because we were also in a time in society where that type of extremism really wasn't as tapped into.
Right.
And I think that generations that were raised in the homeschooling program were like, you know, okay, it's how I was raised, but I want my kids to have a different experience.
A semi-normal.
Well, because we all realized
experience,
how uneducated we were.
Yeah.
You know, I know a
and
lot
how
of parents.
unprepared we were for real life.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone blames the downfall of the cult on Bill Gothard finally being exposed.
Right.
But it had started years
not.
before that. Like
Yeah.
it had started sliding, I would say probably like 5-6 years before he ever got called out.
But like I said, by the year, like in 1999 when I was still there, it was becoming a discussion in the homeschooling department that it was the first year that we had not superseded the previous year with enrollment. And so they were like, red alert, we got to start calling the families, make sure they stay in, and, you know, talk to other families that they know and bring them in. And so it was this huge, you know, thing for them. And I just don't, I mean, from what I saw, they stopped going to Knoxville pretty shortly after that. And that was the big family seminars. It was huge. We took
thousands
over
of
the
people.
Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville. And so as the numbers waned, they started to move around to this stadium or this smaller stadium, this church. And now they're all at Big Sandy and they camp.
Yeah.
It's cute.
They just have a fun little camping trip.
Yeah, it's cute.
Almost like a festival. How fun.
Yeah. Definitely not the rigid thing we did.
But I mean, for every Bill Gothard, for every shiny happy people cult that ultimately fails, there's another one just waiting in the wings because people just love fundamentalism for some reason. I think it makes them feel more in control. It gives them a purpose and an identity almost, and so it's disturbing to see. But I don't know how you get rid of it entirely. I don't think there's a way to do that. As long as humans are still broken, we're just gonna deal with that. We're gonna see it.
I think it's just awareness at this point, you know, and
That's it.
for those that are ready to hear it or are seeking or even that little hint of questioning, you know, I've had people that have found me on TikTok and the next thing you know, they're letting me know like, oh my gosh, I'm doing EMDR therapy now because you were talking about it. And they weren't even going to do it. You know, they were like, oh, I don't need secular therapy. And now, I mean, my gosh, I have so many people that are doing it. And I'm like, hey, that's all I ask is seek the help and ask the questions.
You know what's interesting, actually,
it doesn't mean
Lindsay?
you don't have to be a non-Christian anymore. It just means that maybe you don't try to control other people.
Right.
Just control you.
Yeah.
know?
Do what's good for you.
Do you.
As long as you're not hurting anyone else, do what makes you happy, what's good for you. The EMDR therapy thing, I talked to a lady that grew up going to very restrictive private Christian schools. Now she is a professional dominatrix. Travels
Get it.
all over the place. Doing Goddess Killian. Did an episode with her a little while ago. She actually used EMDR therapy.
Good
Trying
for
to get
her.
on that train.
Good on her.
I
The
just need to
tapping
sign up.
terrifies me.
It's
terrifies me.
incredible. It's incredible. I'm telling you, it's like you're walking down a path you've already been on, but you're now the warrior on that path to go and save yourself.
Yeah.
So cool.
And it's hard work. I'm not saying it was easy by any stretch of the imagination. There were times where I'd finish a session and I'd lay on my office floor and just sob for 3 hours. But I was getting it out. You know, it was like slowly pulling out a splinter and just going, it hurts every time. It hurt, but at some point it's going to be out and I'm going to be able to heal from it, you know?
Yeah.
So someday I'll share those stories.
We did an episode with Lindsay where she talked about one of the experiences she had during an EMDR session, and I mean it was tough to listen to, much less experience it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got so many episodes that Lindsay and I have done together with Bryce, with Chad Harris, without just the two of us. So go watch those episodes too, y'all, because there's just so much there. And then definitely watch the episode that Shelise and Lindsay do together, because that's going to be
and the
dynamite.
one that the two of you did together.
Oh yeah,
You're
yes.
like,
watch,
you guys were
watch
together.
that episode too, also on Shalise's channel. It's so good because of Shelise. But thank y'all so much for being here, Shelise and Lindsay. It's an absolute pleasure getting to talk to y'all in person.
Yeah, this is
How
great.
cool is this? I mean, my God, everyone's just going to go nuts for this.
This is great.
Shelise, where can folks find you?
At Cults to Consciousness, you can find us on YouTube, of course. That's our home base. Or on Instagram at Cults to Consciousness. You know, all the basic stuff.
Yeah, go check her out, y'all. Watch the podcast. Follow on social media. It's all such good stuff. And Lindsay, you're all over now, too.
And also Culty.
So culty.
The Cult Chronicles out on TikTok and Instagram at this point, but potentially YouTube.
Ooh,
soon.
thinking about making a little YouTube move?
I'm working on trying to figure out how that's going to work for me.
Very
but I'd like to maybe move there because
exciting.
TikTok's great, but I feel like there's more potential for me to share my story without them being taken down or harassed and everything else. I can control that narrative a little bit.
That's a
more on
great
YouTube.
point. YouTube has been so cool with us talking about this kind of stuff because the conversations are not easy. It gets very deep. It gets very heavy. It gets like tough.
Yeah.
Truly. But YouTube has been really cool with me. They've been awesome with you as far as I can tell.
I mean, we got to work around a few things sometimes.
Sure.
And people are a little upset. But I'm like, sorry, I have to bleep out that word, but I want more people to see it.
Yeah.
You know? So sometimes we have to use little asterisks and things so we don't get flagged. But for the most part, we talk about really dark stuff and it makes it through. We make it so it makes it through.
That's right. That's right. You do what you got to do.
Yeah,
right? Oh, the other thing, Lindsay, is people can also follow if you want makeup tips, advice. You need to book a makeup artist. They can follow you on that side as well, right?
True.
Are you still cool with that?
Oh, absolutely.
With people looking you up.
I always forget
Crazy
to.
Pretty?
Crazy Pretty is my Instagram over
really
on
cool stuff.
Instagram. My Instagram on Instagram. Yeah, that was great. I know what I'm doing.
Guys, my makeup has gotten so much better since I started following Lindsay.
I almost brought my
Crazy
shears
Brit.
today.
Your shears?
I meant to give you like a shape your hair a little bit. And
it is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
it's wild.
No, it's crazy. It could have been crazy pretty, but instead it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
That was so good. You just came up with that right on the spot, and I'm a little offended and a little bit hurt. But no, I'm kidding. No, my hair is wild right now.
Says the guy wearing the hat.
I feel like, hey, this is a Texas. I'm representing Texas in Los
Backwards?
Angeles.
We don't see it.
Oh,
What's
that's
it
a
say?
really good point. It's a Houston Texans hat.
Oh, okay.
Which you guys probably don't even know what that is, right?
I mean,
it's
a red hat at this point. So I just feel like maybe you should show everyone what it actually is. Because red hat and Texas, I'm just
Then
saying.
I would have to take the hat off, and you would have to see the
Swirl
mess
around.
that's happening. Oh, that's a really good point.
What is the deal?
Oh, no.
There you go.
There we go. We saw it.
We saw it. We got it. I kicked over my coffee, too. Awesome. Way to go, Lindsay. That was your fault. That was
You're
her
welcome.
fault. I want to say I messed up your studio because of Lindsay.
We need
Not my fault.
clarification,
It's
though. We needed that clarification.
You did. Guys, please like, comment, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. We love you so much, and we'll see you next week.